The VDPA paid particular attention to national and regional particularities, as well as religious, historical, and cultural backgrounds of member states in dealing with human rights, along with the principle of universality of human rights.
And move on to United Nations Watch, please. You have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. UN Watch welcomes the European Union statement opposing the use of cultural relativism as a justification for violations of universal human rights. We are concerned that many are using this doctrine to undermine the obligation of all governments to respect basic liberties, such as the freedoms of speech, assembly, and religion. In this regard, we are concerned by the escalated promotion of the Tehran Declaration and Program of Action, adopted in 2007 at a meeting of the 120-member non-aligned movement. Human rights, this manifesto proclaims, must defer to, quote, the significance of national and regional particularities, and to, quote, various historical, cultural, and religious backgrounds. Words have consequences. These words have been used most recently to justify the killing of gays. Implicit throughout the Tehran Declaration is the notion that the world should disregard gross abuses in Iran, Syria, Saudi Arabia, Cuba, China, and Zimbabwe due to alleged cultural differences. Mr. President, the perpetrators say one thing, but the victims say something else. The victims of these governments...
Excuse me, there is a point of order by Cuba.
Gracias, señor presidente.
Thank you, Mr. President. I am taking the floor on a point of order to refer to the statement now being made by this NGO. We are talking about the implementation of the Vienna Declaration, and this is the item we are addressing. This is not the time to accuse any country, much less to refer to statements made by a movement of countries, the majority of whose members, or virtually the majority of the members of the UN, are members of that movement. So I would call to order the NGO that is speaking, and perhaps we can go on then. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I give the floor back to United Nations Watch. You have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. The perpetrators say one thing, but the victims say something else. The victims of these governments, invoking the Vienna and the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, implore us to do the opposite, to grant them the full application of universal human rights. In 2009, the General Assembly adopted a resolution incorporating a special reference to the Tehran meeting which produced that declaration, and it called on UN officials to promote the concept. Last June, the Council adopted a resolution giving added weight to the notion that national and religious specificities constitute cultural rights equal to other human rights. Cuba led the initiative together with Iran, North Korea, Belarus, Pakistan, and Egypt. As part of this campaign, the NAM Center for Human Rights and Cultural Diversity was established in Tehran. Speaking last May at its opening, Iran's deputy foreign minister articulated one of the center's core messages, that the Iranian government is a, quote, victim of the politicization of human rights, despite having, he claimed, quote, always played a leading role in promoting human values. Mr. President, it is time for the international community to rise up and declare the right not to be arrested or killed for peacefully demonstrating is not and never will be culturally specific. It is universal. Thank you, Mr. President.